Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty wild, like AI hallucinations. And get this, they might actually be the key to faster drug discovery.
Yeah, it's kind of a head scratcher, isn't it? I mean, we usually try to get rid of those inaccuracies in AI, but what if they're not bugs? What if they're actually features?
Exactly. It's like AI is coming up with things no human would ever even think of.
Totally. And we're looking at some fascinating research from Xu Zhaovan and Michael Farber on this very thing.
They trained a bunch of large language models, those AI systems that can practically write a novel, to describe molecules. And they just let the AI run a little wild.
Yeah, they let it make things up.
Hallucinate.
Hallucinate, exactly. And you know what they found? These hallucinations actually improved the AI's ability to predict things about those molecules, which is huge for drug discovery.
That's mind-blowing. So how do they even do this? Did they just unleash the AI on a bunch of chemistry textbooks and say, go crazy?
Well, not exactly. They use something called
说了
smile
说了，爸
strings,
说
which
了，
is like a code, a shorthand way to represent molecular structures. They fed these strings to the AI and asked it to describe them, but they allowed for some, let's say, creative liberties.
So they kind of encouraged the AI to go off script a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I bet they didn't use just any AI for this.
Oh, definitely.
I brought out the big guns,
They
right?
used some heavy hitters like GPT 3.5 and GPT 4.0, and also some specialized models designed specifically for chemistry, like PEMLM.
So a real all-star lineup of
For
AI.
sure.
And what did they find?
Well, most of these LLMs, they actually performed better at predicting things about those molecules when they were given these hallucinated descriptions, compared to when they were just given the plain smiles string.
Hold on, so you're telling me giving the AI bad information actually made it better at its job?
It sounds crazy, I know, but that's exactly what they found.
Wow. How is that even possible?
Well, one LLM called Llama 3.1-8B, it showed an almost 18.5% improvement on a really important measure called ROC-AM when it was given these hallucinated prompts.
Okay, so almost 20% better just because it was making stuff up.
Pretty much, yeah.
And were there any other interesting findings?
Yeah, actually, they found that hallucinations from GPT-4o, they seem to be particularly effective across all the different models they tested.
So GPT-4o, the master hallucinator.
You could say that.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. But this is just one study, right? I mean, what did they do to try to figure out why these hallucinations were so helpful? Did they just shrug their shoulders and say AI is magic?
Well, thankfully, no. They dug a little deeper, and one thing they looked at was model size. And it turns out bigger models, they generally showed a greater benefit from those hallucinations.
So the more complex the AI, the better it is at using those little creative sparks, even if they're not exactly accurate.
It seems that way, yeah.
Fascinating. Anything else?
Yeah, they also played around with something called generation temperature, which is basically like a control for how random the AI's output is.
So higher temperature, more hallucinations.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing that led to some pretty wild results.
You'd think so, right? But surprisingly, it didn't actually have a huge impact on the overall performance.
Really?
Yeah, so it seems like it's not just about the amount of hallucinations, it's more about the quality of those hallucinations.
So there's like a sweet spot where the AI is being just creative enough, but not too crazy.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, this is where I need to put my thinking cap on. So the AI is hallucinating, but not too much. And somehow that's making it better at predicting things about molecules. I'm starting to see why this research is causing such a buzz.
Oh, absolutely. But hold on, because it gets even stranger. They decided to see what would happen if they fed the AI hallucinations in different languages.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What kind of languages?
Well, they used languages that were in the AI's training data, like English and German. But they also used languages that it hadn't specifically learned, like Chinese.
Okay, so they threw in some Mandarin just for kicks.
You could say that.
And what happened?
Well, remember that llama model we talked about earlier, the one that showed that big performance
Yeah.
jump? Well, get this. Its best performance came when it was given hallucinations in Chinese.
No way. Chinese, a language it wasn't even trained on.
That's right.
That's incredible. What does that even mean?
Well, it's a great question, isn't it? It raises all sorts of questions about how these LLMs actually learn and process information.
It's like we've stumbled onto this hidden talent, this secret ability within these. Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
Okay, that's not true. The Chinese Mandarin is trained in Llama 3.
Well, that's a very open-ended, oh, okay, but I think I understand what you mean. It's a lot to take in, this idea of AI hallucinating its way to better predictions.
Yeah, it's like we're throwing out everything we thought we knew about AI, right? But it's also really exciting because this is opening up some amazing possibilities.
It is definitely a bit mind-bending, but I'm glad you're along for the ride. It shows how much more there is to learn about AI.
Absolutely. So we've got AI hallucinating in other languages and getting better results. I have to admit, I'm hooked. but I have a feel we're just scratching the surface here.
Yes, and we've been talking about drug discovery, but this has applications for other fields too. We'll get into that in a bit. But first, let's dig a little deeper into how these researchers figured out what was happening.
Great idea. We got to know how they peeked inside the AI's mind. I mean, how do they understand why these hallucinations had such a big impact?
Well, one of the things they did was analyze something called attention scores. You can think of them like a heat map, but for the AI's thought process.
Ah, like those heat maps of what website elements grab people's attention. So it's a similar idea, but for AI's thought process.
Exactly. They show which parts of the input the AI is really focusing on when it's making a decision, like what words or concepts it keys in on.
So it's like they were able to see what was really grabbing the AI's attention, what was influencing its predictions.
Exactly. And they found that the AI wasn't just ignoring those hallucinations, it was actually paying close attention to them.
Even the parts that were factually wrong.
Yes, even those parts.
Wait a minute, so you're telling me the AI was using incorrect information to make better predictions? This is exactly the kind of thing that gives AI a bad name.
It does seem strange, but that's what they found.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. In one case, the hallucinated text claimed that a certain molecule contained some elements that weren't actually there, but the AI, it latched onto those details anyway.
Wow, that is really unexpected. So how is this useful?
Here's the even stranger part. The AI seemed to be especially drawn to the more subjective parts of those hallucinations.
The subjective parts, like what?
The speculative statements.
You mean like opinions?
Yeah, like one hallucinated description mentioned the molecule's potential applications in drug discovery, which was pure speculation on the AI's part.
So the AI was taking cues from its own made-up opinions? That's wild.
It seems that way.
Do the researchers have any theories about why this might be happening?
They suggested that those subjective, confident statements might actually be boosting the AI's own confidence in its predictions.
So a little bit of delusion might actually be beneficial for AI.
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? It feels like we're seeing AI make creative leaps in its thinking.
It really is. And what are the implications of that? Especially when we're talking about something as important as drug discovery.
Well, it raises some big questions about how we design and train these AI systems. If a bit of controlled chaos can lead to breakthroughs, do we need to rethink our obsession with accuracy?
Wow. Yeah, that's a total shift. Should we be encouraging AI to be more speculative, even if it means getting things wrong sometimes?
Those are some really thought-provoking questions. And to be honest, a little unsettling. Like maybe it knows something we don't.
Yeah, it feels like we're entering this uncharted territory where the rules of the game are totally different.
Absolutely. It shows that AI has real potential for innovation.
So what do you think this means for the future of AI, not just in drug discovery, but in other fields as well?
Well, I think we're only just beginning to understand the true potential of AI. For so long, we've been trying to make AI think like us.
But what if its real power lies in its ability to think differently, to see patterns that we miss, to make connections that seem illogical to us?
Exactly. It's like this whole new way of thinking.
It's both exciting and a little bit scary, isn't it? I mean, we're really talking about changing AI from something that does what we say into something that is capable of its own novel thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we're ready for it.
This research is challenging our assumptions about what AI is and what it's capable of. It's making us confront the possibility that we've been limiting AI's potential by trying to make it fit into our own narrow definitions of intelligence and creativity.
I think you're absolutely right.
So it's not just about making AI more accurate. It's about embracing its strangeness. It's about letting it be creative, even if that means letting it hallucinate a little.
Exactly. And this brings us to the point about different fields.
Ah, yes, we have talked about drug discovery, but I'm excited to see what else these hallucinations can do.
Well, AI hallucinations, they could be a game changer in other fields too, like materials science.
Material science. Okay, so
Yeah, imagine using AI to create completely new materials, stuff with properties we've never seen before.
like what kind of properties are we talking about?
Well, think strength, flexibility, maybe even self-healing abilities.
Self-healing materials.
Exactly. It sounds like sci-fi, but it could be closer than we think.
Wow. So are we actually seeing any of this in the real world yet?
Oh yeah, definitely. Researchers are already using AI to design materials with specific properties,
Like what?
like super efficient and durable solar panels or lightweight but super strong materials for building things like airplanes or skyscrapers.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a materials revolution.
I think we are, and it's all because of this weird AI behavior.
And it's all thanks to these AI hallucinations.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's amazing. What about other fields like outside of science and engineering?
Well, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in art and music too.
Really?
Yeah, people are using AI to create paintings, sculptures, even musical compositions.
AI composing music.
Yeah, and the results are pretty incredible.
So the AI is not just copying existing art.
No, it's creating original stuff.
That's wild. So instead of replacing artists, it's giving them new tools.
That's a good way to put it.
It's like AI is opening up this whole new world of creative possibilities.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's be realistic for a second. There have to be some challenges here. What are some of the biggest hurdles we need to overcome when working with these hallucinating AI systems?
Well, one big one is controllability. It's still really hard to steer those hallucinations in a specific direction. Right now, it's kind of a hit or miss process.
So it's like you're pointing the AI in a general direction, but you don't know exactly where it's going to end up.
Exactly.
And that can be a problem, especially if you're working on something with real-world consequences,
Right. We need to find better ways to guide the AI.
to make sure it's working towards our goals.
Exactly.
And what about explainability? With regular AI, we can usually see how it arrives at its conclusions, but with these systems that incorporate hallucinations, it all seems a lot more mysterious.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's kind of like a black box.
Right, the AI makes these leaps, but we don't really know why.
And that can be a problem if we need to trust the AI's output. We need to find ways to make the AI's thought process more transparent.
So we can understand why it's doing what it's doing.
Right.
It sounds like there's still a lot of work to be done,
Oh, definitely.
but the possibilities are pretty incredible.
Absolutely. We're talking about a whole new way of thinking about AI
One that embraces the unexpected.
and uses it to our advantage.
It's like we're learning to speak a whole new language,
The language of AI creativity
a language that's full of surprises.
and unexpected turns.
But if we can master it, who knows what amazing things we might be able to create.
I can't wait